Hi. So I wanted to talk about something that is coming up more and more frequently with some of my coachees, and that is people who've had negative experiences of workplace coaching. When I say negative experiences of workplace coaching, what I'm talking about is situations where you are coached within the context of the organisation that employs you by someone who is not a full-time coach, who is not external to the organisation, but who is internal to the organisation. Typically, that is a manager or that is an HR professional. And some of these cases that I'm seeing, that relationship is either blown up in very dramatic style, or it hasn't blown up, but it's proved profoundly ineffective for the person being coached, and they haven't felt able to say, this isn't working for me. So, and there's some power dynamics at play here. I think it's worth saying that there's a lot of good reasons why organisations are interested in workplace coaching. So it's really useful that organisations are interested in coaching techniques and are using them to counteract perhaps a more command and control sort of culture that may have been prevalent in the past, where they really want to make the most use of the ideas and creativity that they have within their teams in a much more bottom-up way. And it's also really useful when you've either got a manager who just can't help themselves stepping in to rescue somebody who perhaps doesn't need rescuing and adding to that workloads, or where you might have an employee who, at the first sign of trouble, sort of brings someone else in to help them rather than looking for the solutions that they might already have themselves. So there's great reasons why coaching techniques are useful in the workplace, but it's not a substitute for teaching. So if you are a manager and you have skills and experience, and let's be honest, preferences that informs how work can and should be done within an organisation, and, members of your team may well have joined to benefit from your wisdom, from your experience, to learn from you. And of course, there's other sources of learning, but direct between individuals, person-to-person learning is still number one for most people, and you can expect as an employee to be taught, and you can expect as a manager to teach. So teaching still has its place. It's not, that's not your primary function, but teaching has its place. And therefore answering every question with a question is something that shouldn't be a default or the only management tool in the box. The other problem that we need to come to is the question of power dynamics. So, as an employer, you do not have an automatic right to the hopes, dreams, fears, aspirations of your employee. You have every right to have a conversation about performance, but you do not have a right to pry into someone's inner soul, spirit, and there are boundaries between the personal and the professional for all sorts of reasons, and there may be the comfort and trust and willingness to go to some of those places, but there also may not. So consider that the right to ask those questions is not automatic, but the very fact of asking occurs within a power context. And if you are someone who decides someone's pay package, promotion opportunities, end of year appraisal, or who frankly that person needs to have a really good relationship with to make the next week go well, then consider the pressure and the expectation that you are putting on that individual if you ask them a question they may not be prepared to answer, and that they may not have thought in advance how they establish that boundary and let you know that that is not a question they're willing to answer for you. Because one of the key dimensions of coaching that we have is a confidential and safe relationship between equals. That confidentiality occurs partly because a coach is outside of someone's network. And the relationship between equals is key because no one person has power over the other in other senses. So do consider the power context in which you're asking those questions. And my recommendation, in fact, is that I would encourage workplaces to use coaching-informed methodologies, but to make a distinction between coaching techniques and coaching. And coaching requires a certain unique set of circumstances, including equality, including confidentiality, including safety, which may not be possible to replicate in a workplace coaching context. I hope that's helpful. Let me know your thoughts.